I don't think they're going to achieve that, although there's probably enough time to do it. Steve Menzies gets his second try. Wishart now with the conversion attempt, and he is able to enlarge that scoreline. So now we're looking down the barrel of 62 points to 2, 62 to 2. The only thing that wasn't said after the try was the congratulatory segment that we normally go through when Sterling or Vorton calls the try, and Vorton's effort then was probably a 9.5.
It was outstanding, Ray. I obviously came from the diaphragm, and pronunciation was perfect. The timing,
Touch
the lines went on.
Yes, that's
maybe just commenting how good the call was from Vorton in the commentary box.
I know one thing, Steve Menzies is feeling quite happy about the situation. 2 tries now for him. Now, both captains. In fact, it's not the captain. Farrell's still there. Richard Price and Ricky Stewart called to centre ring for a little bit of a chastisement. Acting on a touch judge report as the halfback for Australia tonight, Stewart, sends Fairley back to the Sheffield side. 62 points to 2. Still they're able to keep it alive. Sheffield refusing to put them.
You can't, Timmy Brasher, sniff out an opportunity there. He's been playing fullback for most of this second half, and he saw that the Australians there going nowhere. Kevin Walters had thrown a few dummies and missed everyone, and Timmy Brasher all of a sudden found the gap, and Wooshka, away he went. He's had a great second half tonight, Tim Brasher, and Wishart positions himself very nicely on the inside and finishes it off to cap what's been a good night for him, points-wise.
He's played a fair bit of wing play over here, Tim Brasher, but I don't think there's any doubt that fullback is by far his best position. Can really pick and choose when to inject himself, and it's invariably at the right time, as it was on this occasion. Lovely timing, straight through Farrell's tackle. Good acceleration. A lovely ball to Wishart, who again has played very strongly tonight. All of these players putting pressure on Bob Fulton. It'll be an easy conversion. In fact,
it was an easy conversion. That's exactly right, Peter. Wishart converted his own try. And so 68 points to 2. 12 tries, 10 goals, 24 personal points for Rod Wishart. And that goal brings Rod Wishart to 1 from the record of most number of goals by a Kangaroo on tour in a match. I had a feeling it was Keith Barnes many years ago, but we'll just check those records. In fact, it's shared jointly by Eric Weisel and Noel Pidding. A record that some of the old-timers will be interested in. Eric Weisel, that is going back. In fact, Peter Sterling played many of his early football matches on that very ground in Wagga.
Yes, great player, Eric Weisel. Paul Carr offside there, knocked on instead of being penalised, so an Australian feed.
Sees Kevin Walters going to the right and trying to promote Terry Hill. He doesn't have any trouble in doing that. Menzies chimes in and looks for his third, but he's pulled down, not held, and eventually is pulled down by Sobji. Just inside the 30-metre line, but it's looking again ominous for Sheffield as Stewart works with Kevin Walters and then his brother, and he's able to keep it alive back to Kevin Walters and then for David Fairley, and Fairley is pulled down by Price. Kevin Walters across for Lazarus. Lazarus over the 20-metre line. Heard the call on the outside from Florimo, unable to get a pass off for him. Steve Walters in now for Ricky Stewart to come back to the blind. Kevin Walters waiting. Unloads for Jason Smith. He might have given that pass too early. In fact, I'm sure he did, and Andrew Eddinghausen takes the tackle. Did well, though, to go back in field and stay away from the touchline, thus keeping it alive for this play. In this match, 2 for the brother, and now 1 for the 5/8.
And I don't know about Bright Sodji being the new Martin Offia. All he did here was stop Kevin Walters from running over the dead ball line. Sydney heads on the inside there. No defence coming across on the inside whatsoever. Kevin Walters all too easy.
Yes, well, they're just lining up now to get a try. I reckon you and I could run on and get one, Pete. Or you might.
Well, I know I could.
But Kevin's had a pretty fair game tonight as well. Wishart kicks another one. So has he broken the record, Rabs?
The kick by Rod Wishart successful. And 74-2 the score. Statisticians here going through record books and trying to keep those that are relative to the game up to date. 72-2 on the scoreboard. What did I say? I said 74-2. I think I'll run with my own statistician. 74-2. That's out on the fall. So
it'll be 80 shortly anyway, Ray, so don't worry too much about it.
74-2 is the one that I'm running with. Although they're telling us it's 72-2. The penalty taken by Australia in front of a crowd of around probably 10,000 here at Sheffield. And Terry Hill still hasn't been able to get over that line, though he might try. He's not doing it this time. He's 10 metres out from the line, and here's Fairley. For my money, the man of the match, David Fairley. A couple of metres out from the line, and the Australians are all in the queue on the open side. Stewart, he throws a long pass out. Menzies tried to pop it down for Kevin Walters, but it goes to ground and Sheffield come up with it. Well, that stops the flood just for a moment. They're running out of numerals on the scoreboard. This is Farrell taking a tackle and getting it off for Briggs. And across the ground they go now for Gamson. He'll remember that tackle, I suggest to you. Terry Hill hit him with everything bar his back teeth. Pixley now.
Shame it hasn't been a better spectacle for the crowd. Quite a good crowd, as we pointed out here tonight. A lot of Australians have arrived on supporters tours. And plenty happening in Sheffield tonight. Sheffield Wednesday, First Division or Premier Division soccer team in action, and the Diana Ross concert next door.
Baby love, baby love.
Oh. Well, I don't know what. Here's a penalty to the Sheffield side.
And the tap taken quickly by Briggs, the replacement in 14. He finds support coming at close quarters. One of the big replacements in 16, Carl Randall. Just outside the 20-metre point, then Sheffield still trying to score their first try of the match, and I don't think it's going to happen for them. Thompson now. Subji able to get it on for Hayes. Hayes across, trying to promote an angle there for his winger. Bradley Clyde and Laurie Daly surveying the situation from the players' tunnel. Guarded and rugged up against the cold. This was Stewart getting in behind the defence, and then Eddinghausen. And have a look at this for a sight in rugby league from head on. Something that the promoters use in advertisements about the game. Eddinghausen and Mullins in full cry. They're a treat to watch, aren't they? So where are we up to now on that scoreboard, Mr. Scoreboard? So there's the kick by Wishart, sending the scoreboard across to 80 points to 2. The siren mercifully sounds in the background. And I can't remember hearing a siren as gleefully in my broadcasting career. Let me say that. We get a final scoreboard of 80 points to 2. With Australia scoring at an unbelievable rate in the second half. Al Meninga returning to the dressing sheds. Eddinghausen got 3, Steve Walters 2, Mullins 2, Menzies 2. Kevin Walters, Florimo, Brasher, Pay, and Wishart. They each got 1. Wishart kicked 12 goals to set a new record, an all-time record for most number of goals by a Kangaroo on tour. And he broke the record set formerly by Eric Weisel and Noel Pitting at 11. And so from the Don Valley Stadium, Peter and Paul will be back to wrap it up for you. Good luck, fellas. Good luck, fellas. It's nice and Piccadilly down there. And we'll take a break and be back with them in just a moment.
The second highest score ever run up by a Kangaroo team on tour has seen them defeat the Sheffield Eagles 80 points to 2. It's probably easier to go through the players that didn't score, but the score breakdown does look like this. Andrew Eddinghausen got 3, Steve Walters 2, Mullins 2, Menzies 2, Florimo, Brasher, Pay, Wishart and Kevin Walters all got tries. A great night for Rod Wishart, who kicked 12 from 14, while Maiko kicked 1 from 2 for Sheffield. In fact, they were the first points of the game. Got them away on the right foot, Paul Vorton, but not the kind of game that Bob Fulton would have really wanted after the test.
That's right. Bob came here with a lot of questions in his mind. I don't feel any of them have been answered at this stage because, I mean, all you can do is win by 80, can't you? That's a big win for them. They all played very, very well. The players that were in question. Dean Pay up front, I thought he was just about one of the best till he went off. David Feely had a big game. Lazarus, so they all played very well. Steve Menzies came into it in the second half. Ricky Stewart, they didn't have an ordinary player. So it's a game that hasn't helped Fulton's cause.
Well, points-wise tonight, it was an enormous night for Rod Wishart, the Illawarra winger. Great kicking display and very good in general play. He's now in the dressing sheds with Chris Bombolas.
Well, joining us now is Rod Wishart. Rod, congratulations on a fabulous performance.
Thank you. It was a good effort. The second half was good. We really found our third year, I suppose, and our backup game was pretty good, and we laid a few tries on, which was really good, I suppose. Yeah.
28 points personally for you from a try and 14 goals. That's the most goals kicked in a Root Tour. That must be some part of history. 12 goals, I beg your pardon. That must be a piece of history that you'll enjoy.
Oh yeah, I'm really happy with that. But all the credit goes to the other 16 guys that went on the field. They scored some good tries. A lot of them were under the pace, which made it pretty easy for me. But overall, I'm really happy. I'm striking the ball pretty well, and as long as I'm playing okay as well, I'm really happy.
And so he should be. 28 points tonight, Rod Wishart. Is it going to be enough, Paul? When we came away, there was conjecture about the kicker in the test matches. He's done everything right tonight, but do you think it'll be enough to get him a spot? Well,
he's had a great tour all round, Rod Wishart. 12 from 14 tonight, a lot of them from hard angles. His general play also, he's been in great form. I don't know if he can force his way into the team. His goal kicking obviously is a big asset, something that the Australian Test team doesn't have. Mal's doesn't want to do any more kicking. David Furner was only on the bench. But it's going to be hard to put out either E.T. on the wing or Mike Hancock, he won't be there, or Wendell Saylor.
Yeah, we're looking at the forward pack. Of course, there was some talk about maybe a change or two for the second test. A man who did his chances no harm at all tonight, the back row from North Sydney, David Fairley, had a storming game. He too is with Chris Bombolas.
Well, David, obviously a big performance by the Australian team. You're satisfied with your own individual performance?
Yeah, it was a very hard game to sort of fit into them sort of games, Sheffield, to their credit, they really didn't throw the towel in despite being beaten by so many points. But, it's very hard to fit in, but, we did our best and, can't do any more than that.
It's a pretty happy dressing room compared to Saturday, isn't it, really?
Well, it certainly is. Everyone in the whole touring side was very disappointed about Saturday, and we wanted to get a good win up for today, for especially for the loss that we had on Saturday. So it was really important that we got a win up. The boys did give me a hard time.
Is this the sort of confidence booster you needed with a couple of matches to go to the test?
It is. We definitely wanted to get a big win up, and I think we did everything possible. We did everything possible. Yeah.
What a difference a couple of days makes. Obviously, a much happier Australian dressing shed, and David Fairley tremendous tonight, as you would expect to get such opposition. We expect better this weekend, Paul. The Welshmen, they've named a pretty strong outfit.
Well, Australia will be hoping for better, Peter, to give themselves a decent test, a good hit out. In the forwards, the Welsh side have got Paul Moriarty and Mark Perrott. They both played for Halifax a couple of weeks ago. Very strong forwards. In the back, some very speedy customers there, like Anthony Sullivan, Jonathan Griffiths and Scott Gibbs. So it should be a good game. But one player Australia will be without is their nippy centre, Paul McGregor. He suffered an injury tonight, the torn hamstring, and we've just been in the dressing room. Apparently he'll be out for 2 to 3 weeks with that. So the depth is being sorely tested now, with Michael Hancock as well out for a couple of weeks. And Fulton will be pulling his hair out, I think, in the other games, like the St Helens game in the following week, to try and find some backs.
Yeah, it's starting to become a bit of a problem. 5 players unavailable for selection tonight. McGregor on top of that. We look forward to the Welsh game. That is our next game, coming to you from Cardiff. You'll see that 8:30 p.m. on Monday night. But tonight here in Sheffield, no problems for the Australians. In fact, a ridiculous scoreline of 80 points to 2. So for now, on behalf of the entire Wide World of Sports Rugby League team from Sheffield, we wish you a very good night.
Now Pay gets rid of one, strides for the line. and Menzies gives a short ball. Ebbinghausen again. Here's Mullins now, through a gap. Ebbinghausen's coming up on his outside. Oh, Mullins won't need anybody. He's run right around them to